3 years ago, I bought my house with one major non-negotiable in mind. Absolutely no HOA. I wasn't looking for someone to monitor my trash cans, fine me for the shade of my garage door, or judge me based on how often I edged the lawn. What I wanted was peace. Independence. A patch of land where I could live without feeling like I had a hall monitor peering over my fence. And I found it. A quiet street, homes spaced out just enough to feel private but still part of a community, and best of all, completely outside of any homeowners association. It felt like freedom. No monthly dues. No bylaws. No petty disputes over mailbox designs. I could paint my house neon orange if I wanted to, not that I would. But the option to make my own choices without oversight? That was priceless. As a black man in a predominantly white suburb, the idea of being policed over things that didn't matter rubbed me the wrong way. I already had enough of that to navigate in the real world. My home needed to be my sanctuary. I work in tech, long hours, fast pace, high stress. So when I'm off the clock, I'm either firing up the grill or floating in my pool, decompressing from the grind. I'm not looking for drama. I didn't move here to make waves. I moved here to rest. But peace. It turns out, peace is a privilege you have to defend. Especially when your neighbor is the self-appointed queen of the block. Her name isn't actually Karen. But let's be honest, it fits. Mid-50s, always wearing crisp tennis whites like she's seconds away from a match, and a frown so permanent it might as well be Botoxed into place. From day one, she gave off vibes that said, I run things around here. Not just her house. Not just her yard. The entire neighborhood. Karen was the president of the HOA next door. That fact alone seemed to inflate her ego to astronomical levels. She walked her little lapdog like it was a badge of rank, stopping to inspect lawns, trash bins, even flower arrangements. And while I wasn't technically in her jurisdiction, that didn't stop her from treating me like I was. She'd show up at my fence line with comments that were coated in sugar but sharp as glass. Oh, you went with blue for the trim? Bold choice. Or, some of the neighbors have been talking about your garden. We just try to keep a cohesive aesthetic here. I always responded with the same polite but firm line, I'm not part of the HOA. She'd give me a smile that didn't touch her eyes. Of course. Just trying to help. Some people don't understand how things are usually done here. I understood. I just didn't care. Still, I never raised my voice. Never gave her the satisfaction of seeing me rattled. I figured if I kept to myself, she'd get bored. But Karen doesn't get bored. She gets even. There's a special kind of tension that lives in microaggressions, in those subtle digs that pretend to be compliments. Karen was a master of them. She never said anything outright racist. Never crossed a clear line. But every conversation left me with that distinct feeling of being othered. Like I was some novelty she was tolerating. I've never seen someone grill as often as you do. Must be a cultural thing. You know, I read an article about how some communities are really embracing diversity. It's so progressive. And my personal favorite, you people are always so passionate about your homes. She said it with a smile. Always with a smile. I bit my tongue. Because I knew what would happen if I reacted the way I wanted to. If I matched her energy. I'd be labeled aggressive. Intimidating. A threat. So I kept it cool. Cool, but watchful. What Karen didn't seem to understand was that respect is a two-way street. I wasn't asking for friendship. I didn't want to borrow sugar or join the next HOA bake sale. I just wanted space. The same space everyone else got. But something about me living freely, confidently, without needing her approval, that burned her up. And eventually, she decided to take matters into her own hands. It started small. A trash bin moved a few feet onto my driveway. A note tucked into my mailbox that said, "Please consider trimming your hedges. Some neighbors find them obstructive." One time, I caught her staring at my backyard from her upstairs window with binoculars. I wish I was joking. Then came the confrontations. You left your porch light on all night. That kind of light pollution is disruptive. Are you aware your lawn sprinklers are running past the standard schedule? Standard for who, Karen? She was escalating, testing boundaries, trying to provoke a reaction. She wanted me to snap, to yell, to give her something to use. I didn't bite. But that only made her bolder. It was a Thursday. Nothing special. I had wrapped up work early, rare for me, and thought I'd surprise my wife with her favorite takeout. Some pad CEW and mango sticky rice. I was feeling good. Like I was about to kick off a relaxing evening. Then I turned onto my street. Cars. Everywhere. Not just in Karen's driveway. Not just in front of her house. They were parked on my side of the street. On my grass. Blocking my mailbox. I slowed down, confused. Then I saw the balloons. They were tied to my mailbox. My gate. Wide open. Music, loud, thumping music, echoed from the backyard. I pulled into the driveway slowly, like maybe I was imagining it. Maybe I got the wrong house. But no, this was my address. My front door. My lawn. I got out, takeout bag still in hand, and walked toward the backyard. And there it was. The full-blown audacity of it all. At least 20 people in my backyard. Kids splashing in my pool. Adults lounging on my patio chairs. A beer pong table set up next to my grill. And right in the center of it all, floating in a pool tube like she owned the place, Karen. Wearing my wife's robe. Holding my beer. She looked up and waved. "Oh hey, you're home early." My jaw tightened. My heart rate spiked. I took a step forward. "Karen," I said. "What the hell is going on?" She blinked like I was the one being unreasonable. "It's just a small HOA get-together. Don't worry, we cleaned up after ourselves." My fists clenched around the takeout bag. "This is my property. You are trespassing." She rolled her eyes. "Oh, come on. It's just for a few hours. You weren't even here. We figured it'd be fine." "You figured wrong. Besides," she added with that trademark smugness, "you're not part of the HOA. You don't follow the rules anyway." "Exactly," I said. "Which means you have zero authority here. Leave. Now." She scoffed. "You people always get so worked up over the smallest things." And there it was. "You people." I didn't yell. Didn't curse. I just turned around, walked inside, and opened the door to the laundry room. Shadow and Tank lifted their heads. 2 100-pound Rottweilers, all muscle and loyalty. I looked at them and said, "Backyard boys." They trotted out, tails wagging. And behind me, all hell broke loose. The next morning, I woke up to a cluster of HOA emails waiting in my inbox like little landmines, each one more absurd than the last. Karen had filed a formal complaint accusing me of intentional intimidation using dangerous animals, creating an unsafe environment for community members, and the real kicker, racial hostility. I read that line twice, then a third time, wondering if I had stumbled into a bad satire. She was trying to flip the script. Karen, dripping in entitlement and still probably drying off from my pool, had positioned herself as the victim. According to her, my decision to release my Rottweilers, Shadow and Tank, had been a deliberate act of aggression toward a group of innocent, white community members who were simply trying to foster neighborhood togetherness. It was a Hail Mary, a desperate play to salvage her reputation and deflect attention from the truth. But she underestimated me. What she didn't know was that I had already pulled the security footage. Crystal clear video from multiple angles showing Karen and her guests entering my backyard without permission, drinking my beer, lounging in my furniture, and diving into my pool. And when the dogs came out, the chaos that unfolded was entirely self-inflicted. No lunges, no bites, no growling, just 2 dogs sniffing, wagging their tails, and walking through their own backyard. I forwarded the footage to the HOA board, adding a brief message: "This was not intimidation. This was trespassing. I'm not under HOA jurisdiction. Please have your president refrain from unlawful entry into private property." But I wasn't done. I contacted a lawyer. My lawyer, Mr. Tyson, was a bulldog in a blazer. I'd worked with him once before on a zoning issue and knew he had a taste for tearing apart suburban legal nonsense. The moment he saw the footage and read the complaint, he actually laughed. "This is textbook trespassing," he said. and a slam-dunk case of harassment. Together, we drafted a cease and desist letter. It covered the unauthorized use of my property, the consumption of my personal goods, the unauthorized presence of minors in my pool, which could have been a legal disaster had anyone been injured, the opening of my side gate, and the use of my wife's personal items, including her robe. The letter also referenced the complaint Karen filed, labeling it defamatory and retaliatory in nature. We didn't stop there. Tyson began preparing documentation for civil charges, trespassing, theft, and property damage. I itemized every cent: food, drinks, utility costs, and cleanup. Even the lawn repair from where someone's car had chewed up my grass. Every paper plate, every beer, every unauthorized use of my grill, it was all accounted for. Karen wanted a fight? She was about to get one. But in her arrogance, she made another move before the dust could even settle. It was a Tuesday morning when a strange man showed up on my front lawn with a clipboard and camera, taking photos of my house from multiple angles. I stepped outside and asked what he was doing. "HOA compliance inspection," he said. I smirked. "I'm not in your HOA. He paused for a moment, then gave me a thin smile. "You might be soon." That's when the pit formed in my stomach. I did some digging. Turns out Karen and her husband, a real estate attorney with a reputation for creative interpretation of property law, had filed a motion to incorporate my house into the HOA district. The reasoning? To preserve community values and aesthetics. Their justification claimed that my property's proximity to the existing HOA boundary and increased use of shared neighborhood resources made it a community interest to bring me into the fold. It was audacious. It was invasive. And it was exactly the kind of power move Karen would attempt when backed into a corner. I forwarded the documents to Tyson, who called it what it was, an attempted land grab disguised as a procedural annexation. We immediately drafted a formal objection, citing that HOA boundaries are voluntary and contractual, not something that can be forced without consent. Tyson filed for an injunction to stop the motion from moving forward. Karen was trying to play chess. I was flipping the whole board. While the legal side was moving, I had another card to play. I pulled together a highlight reel from the security footage. Karen in my pool, Karen sipping from my beer, Karen in my wife's robe, and the moment the dogs came out and everyone scrambled like someone had pulled the fire alarm at a middle school. I captioned the post, "Karen's HOA party at my house, without permission," featuring my pool, my grill, my beer, and my dogs. Enjoy the show. I uploaded it to the neighborhood Facebook group. Within hours, the post had dozens of comments. By evening, it had gone viral, at least locally viral. People were stunned. Many had no idea it was my property. Karen had told them she was managing the house for a friend out of town. One woman messaged me privately, furious that her child had been near a pool without a lifeguard, thinking it was a sanctioned community event. Others simply commented, "This is wild, Karen went too far," and "unbelievable." Karen didn't respond. Not a word. No defense. No apology. Just silence. The tide had turned. The fallout was swift. The HOA board began to fracture. Some members reached out to me directly to apologize. One older gentleman named Mr. Benson, who had clearly grown weary of Karen's antics, wrote, "I had no idea she was overstepping like this. I'm deeply sorry for what happened to you. This isn't how we want our community represented." Behind closed doors, a movement started among the board members to remove Karen. One member told me, "She's become a liability. If she'll lie about this, what else has she lied about?" Then came the real nail in the coffin. One of the party guests, a woman named Danielle, filed a formal complaint, not against me, but against Karen. She claimed she'd been misled into attending what she thought was a community event sanctioned by the HOA. When things went south with the dogs, she said she experienced panic and distress, believing she had been set up. She wasn't alone. A few other guests echoed similar concerns. No one had been told they were entering a private residence. Karen had claimed authority she didn't have. In doing so, she exposed everyone, including children, to legal liability and emotional distress. Faced with mounting pressure, complaints, and a potential class action mess on her hands, Karen finally cracked. A week later, the HOA sent out an official letter to all residents. Karen, last name, has voluntarily stepped down from her position as HOA president effective immediately. The board will meet next month to elect new leadership and address community concerns. Just like that, Karen's reign ended not with a bang, but with a whimper. The queen of suburban tyranny dethroned by her own arrogance and a pair of friendly Rottweilers. And me. I grilled a steak that night. Extra thick. Sat by my pool with Shadow and Tank, watching the sun dip below the trees. Peace restored. Just the way I like it. After stepping down, you'd think Karen might finally take the hint and disappear into quiet retirement from her self-imposed throne. But that's not how suburban tyrants go out. Instead, she launched a subtle but calculated PR campaign. I started noticing little things. She posted photos on the community Facebook group of her volunteering at local shelters, commenting on threads with supportive messages to families, and even dropping off baked goods at a few houses near hers. She was trying to launder her image. One post read, "Let's remember to show kindness, even when others choose conflict. Community is about unity." That others wasn't subtle. It was aimed at me. What Karen didn't understand was that respect isn't earned through cupcakes and passive-aggressive Facebook posts. It's earned by owning your actions. And she had yet to offer a single apology. The new interim HOA board was made up of people with a very different energy. Some younger residents, a retired schoolteacher named Mrs. Lynn who believed in transparency, and Mr. Benson, who'd reached out to me during the fallout. They sent out a survey to all residents asking for feedback on HOA conduct, authority, and future goals. It was clear they were trying to repair the damage. Then they did something truly unexpected. They invited me to a community forum. Not as a member, but as a guest to speak about what happened and what boundaries should exist between HOA authority and non-member homeowners. I thought about declining, but then I remembered how Karen tried to use the system to crush my independence. I owed it to myself and my neighbors to speak. It was a warm Saturday morning when I walked into the Pine Ridge Estates Community Center. I wore jeans and a plain black tee. No frills. No performance. Just truth. The room was fuller than expected. Maybe 50 residents, some HOA board members, and even a few folks I hadn't seen before. I kept my statement short. I bought my home outside of the HOA for a reason. Freedom. Privacy. Respect. What happened in my backyard wasn't just about trespassing, it was about power. About someone trying to enforce control where they had none. And when I defended myself with facts, not violence, the response was to play the victim and cry foul. I don't want control over anyone else's property. I simply expect the same respect in return. The room stayed quiet for a second, then a few people clapped. Not loudly. Not performative. Just affirming. One man stood and said, "You didn't overreact. You reminded everyone what boundaries mean." A few weeks later, I saw a "for sale" sign go up in front of Karen's house. It was subtle at first. Just the sign, no announcement, no Facebook fanfare. But word got around fast. Rumor had it she and her husband were relocating to a gated community in another part of the state, somewhere with more structure, as one neighbor sarcastically put it. I won't lie. When the moving truck pulled up and I saw Karen walk out with a box in her arms, still wearing that same scowl, I felt nothing. No gloating. No joy. Just relief. She paused once near the sidewalk, looked in my direction. Our eyes met. She opened her mouth like she might say something, then thought better of it. She turned, loaded her things, and left. Shadow and Tank watched from the porch. I scratched their heads. Don't worry, boys. She's not coming back. Months passed. The neighborhood began to shift. More block parties, less tension. The new HOA focused on actual issues, landscaping improvements, community events, support for elderly residents. I wasn't part of it, but I respected their efforts. As for me, I still came home from work, kicked off my shoes, and enjoyed my pool. Shadow and Tank lounged on the patio. My wife laughed more. And I finally got to grill without wondering if someone was plotting a takeover behind the hedge. Sometimes peace isn't quiet. It's earned. And if defending mine made me the jerk, so be it. I'd do it all again. Because this is my home. My rules. And no one, especially not a rogue HOA president, gets to take that from me. Ready to continue, polish, or adapt the script however you'd like. Just say the word.